Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Half Hour. And I swear, every week I say I'm so excited to bring you today's guest, but I am so excited to bring you today's guest. Today, you are going to be meeting my coach with the most, founder, sales extraordinaire, and author of She Believes She Could, Allison Walsh. Allison, thank you for coming to the show.
I am so thrilled to be here, Becca. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time.
Yeah, me too. Before we get started, I would love to pass it back to you so you could share with the audience a little bit more about your background, and then we're going to dive into the first question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I've been blessed to have a really dynamic, interesting career that really all stemmed from my desire to help others. And so I initially got involved in the behavioral health industry when I was 18 years old. I really consider myself a founder since that point, right? I started a nonprofit when I was 18. I wanted to give back and help people struggling with things that I had struggled with. As a result, I built my brand. People started coming to me saying, "Hey, can you help me do what you just did for things I care about too?" And that was my foray into coaching and consulting. And I've
Makes
had
sense.
several different companies as a result of that, but also had the chance to get involved with startup companies, behavioral healthcare specific, start and scale those organizations. And I've absolutely loved it. And so was involved with advanced recovery systems for nearly 10 years. I was the second person brought in. We built that team to 1,000 people. And now I'm at Charlie Health doing the same thing. So love it. Love to be involved with mission driven individuals and companies. And I consider that my superpower truly is being able to optimize people and potential.
I would second that. All right. So, since the episode's only 30 minutes, I want to just dive in to your newest endeavor, which is the book that's coming out today. She Believes She Could. What's
So
the backstory?
oh
What
my
what
gosh.
drove you to write it?
Yeah. So I've always known that I've had a book in me. And even since that 18-year-old self was bold enough to start a nonprofit, I always wanted to do this. I just wasn't sure what the story was going to be. And it became crystal clear to me during the pandemic. And I started a podcast during that time called She Believes She Could. And I realized that there was such a quest for knowledge and information and personal and professional development resources for women, especially that wanted more or wanted to live their best life or be their best self. And so during the time of really recording all these episodes, talking to all these guests, listening to my own community, listening to my clients, it became so clear to me that I could memorialize all of the things that I've learned the hard way and so many of the lessons that I love to share with my clients and with the community that I feel so blessed to support. And I could do that through a book. And so it was amazing. It was like that moment where there was so much clarity and where the desire matched the clarity, and I could, with confidence, move forward. And so it's really about believing in yourself, building your confidence, creating the plan that you need for your life and your career, and then building a brand that's going to attract those opportunities to you so that you can have abundant success.
Yeah. I mean, I love so much of what you said, but one thing that was like almost a mic drop for me is when desire meets clarity. And I think even for the listeners on here, we have a lot of leaders, we have a lot of high achievers, a lot of empowered women. And I find so many people wait towards the end of their career, especially like senior management executives, and they're like, oh, I'll do it when I retire. But you don't have to. There's that moment, like you said, like you're a VP, you're a brand strategist and coach, and you found the moment in time where your clarity met the timing and you went. If you can take off what I'm saying and just share with the listeners, maybe a tip of advice or something like that, of like not waiting if you
Yeah.
have that moment.
Absolutely. I mean, you'll never feel 100% ready, right? But it's the priorities that you set for your life and how you create the space to be able to lean in and do the things that matter to you most. I think we get really addicted to the hustle and the grind and always being busy. And sometimes we need to just stop and pause and say, is this in alignment with what I truly want? You know this about me, Beck. I'm very goal oriented. I
Yeah.
like crystal clear plans. I like to know what we're chasing, what we're going after. And it starts with yourself. I think we're so, especially if you've been working within an organization in which goals can be delivered to you, sometimes you lose track of the importance of setting the goals for yourself. And so I work with a lot of great coaches too. And I spoke these words into the universe about 2 years ago that this was something that I really wanted to do. And we started making sure that I was in the best position to win at this goal. just because I spend so much time working with people on their brands, but I also have people that work with me on mine. And so it was really doing a deep dive and audit. Where could we improve? What could we do? And so that took time, right? And so again, for
Yes.
those listening, sometimes the big goals and dreams that are worth waiting for also require a lot of preparation in order to make them happen. What I don't want to see people do is wait until they're retired, wait until there's another season of life that they could jump in and do other things that they love when they have so much knowledge, wisdom, and inspiration within them right now in this season of life that's relevant and applicable that needs to be shared with the world. And so whether that's sharing your voice, speaking on stages, mentoring, it can look a lot of different ways. For me in this season, it's about writing the book and it's about getting this out to the world so that it can make an impact and really change and shape the course of people's lives and careers. But don't wait, right? I know there's another book in me too. Now I'm like, I can do that once. I can do this again. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
But it was about really getting clear. Okay, here's the plan. Here's the intention. Here's how much I want from the advance. Here's how I want this book launch to go. What do I need to do to create the space in my life to be able to do this? I'm a busy mom. I have 3 young kids. I'm a corporate executive. I've got a thriving business doing all these things. So I really had to be intentional around how I carved out the space, even to just be able to write the book. And so it came with a lot of pre-planning, but it was 100% worth it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm just so glad that you spent some extra time like sharing that background because you see when, especially when we're in corporate leadership roles and we're writing books and building our own brands, you get a lot of people like, how are you doing it all? And I think you just gave an answer to that question. So listeners, take notes.
Rewind,
So,
listen again. So
yeah, rewind, listen, or buy the book. Hey, there you go.
that too.
There's that
It's all
too. Yeah, there's that too. All right. So let's move into the next question. You shared a little bit in the full plate that you carry, but what was something that you really had to uncover during, like overcome during this process?
Well, I mean, I think anytime that you're brave enough to step outside your comfort zone and do something new, there can be those feelings, right? Like as soon as I got the book deal, I was like, who am I to be writing a book? Oh my gosh, what if this doesn't live up to the publisher's expectations? All those things, right? But it's like, you just got to name it to tame it. That's my inner critic coming up. So it's things like that where I just had to like really put into action all of the things that I share with everybody else. That was something that I didn't necessarily think would hit me so hard so fast. But again, it's like you build confidence in the doing. So like once I just opened myself up to being comfortable with the fact that this was new uncharted territory for me, and I surrounded myself with the people that had done this before, right? I always say like, don't take advice from people that haven't walked in the path that you want to walk.
Same.
And like, I had to put new people in my board of advisors, the people around me. And I talk about this in the book and I list them all out because I just feel so grateful to have been surrounded with so many amazing people to support me on this journey. I mean, everything from sitting down with amazing coaches that helped me just like get the pillars onto the paper, right? Every chapter, what was I trying to teach? What were the frameworks that I was going to share? What were the stories that I was going to weave in to really solidify what I was sharing and all of that? And once we had that, there was so much clarity. And then, of course, I know I've shared with you kind of how chapter 10 caused a tipping point in my personal life during this whole thing. And I'm happy to share more about that. But it was a liberating experience. I felt super supported. And I was really proud of myself for not wallowing in the discomfort of it and saying, okay, this is what's showing up for me. I'm going to go find the best possible people that I can to put in my corner so that I know I'm doing this with excellence, which is the standard that I hold myself to.
Yeah. I love that. So, I mean, there's so much in what you said that I want to kind of just pick on for a second is that you did it with support. You mentioned you formed your own board of advisors. That's like another tip that I give the audience all the time too, because you can't do this stuff alone. And the more you try to, the more frustration generally comes and you get your roadblocks and then you abandon this thing that you know is burning inside you. So I just really want to acknowledge you for sharing that because I think it's an important part of the process.
It is. And you don't have to feel alone too, right? This is a big goal and a big journey that I'm on. And I don't want to walk alone, right? Like there's no reason for it. And so that's where it's just like, seek out the support. Do you need a community? Do you need a mastermind? Do you need a coach? Do you need a mentor? Do you just need somebody to talk to that has done this before? That can really help you. But sitting and stewing in it, you're 100% right, Becca. Like that's where I see people bail on their goals all of the time is when they don't feel like they know what's next or what to do. And that's not necessary in this case. There are millions of authors out there and people that have helped authors. And so why would I not equip myself with somebody amazing to help me?
I love that. All right, let's move into another question. What is a big aha or lesson up for you right now?
Oh my gosh, I've got so many big ahas, just in general or as a result of the book?
Well, whatever's up. I mean, I'll take either
Yeah.
one. And then I would also like to pull something from the book, but we'll hold that
Yeah.
question so you can answer this one first.
Okay, cool. Yeah, big ahas right now. Ask for help, ask for help, ask for help, right? And not just the coaching side of it, right? Like I think that one of my coaches did surface for me while I preach, and you've heard me talk about this too, Becca, of like, as soon as you have happy clients, go get testimonials. As soon as you've got happy customers, go get testimonials, or ask them to
Yes.
support you, or ask for the connection, build your network, yada, 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 right? Like I preach that. I will say that like, as I get closer and closer to this dream day, right? Launch day, here we are. I've had to ask a lot of people for things and I had to get over myself. And like, I think it's really easy for us to think of, oh no, they're busy. I don't need to ask. And one of my coaches, Cynthia, said, she's like, people want to see you win, Allison. Like you've poured into so many people over the years.
Ooh.
Stop thinking that they don't and that you're asking too much of them to just make a connection or buy a book or share it with their community. She's like, people want to support you. So stop telling yourself something else. She's like, you're a good person. You've always paid it forward. If this is going to be great, but you got to ask. And I was like, yep, I know. I'm like, again,
Yeah.
I'm taking my
I
own
feel
advice.
that.
It's hard, right? It's hard in the moment to keep asking people, even though I haven't asked them for a lot over the years. Like it's just the aha has been embracing that I do believe that people want to see me win in this and that it is important and being comfortable and confident enough to say that without it sounding cocky or overconfident. Like I eat
Sure.
humble pie all of the time, right? This is a moment in my life that I've wanted for so long. And really, if the only thing that's standing in my way of it being as successful as I want it to be is my own self doubt or not being willing to ask for support, that's on me. And I refuse to have regrets. So that's been my big aha.
Yeah. And for the listeners, just that's a really good another like she's dropping like one liner mic drops left and right over here, but people want to see you win. I think that when we're internalized, and you telling me that all the time too, as you're like, just ask. And I'm like, really? And when I do, I find that on the other side of that fear or like, oh, I don't want to bother them, that people do want to see me win. People want to see you win. And so listeners, people want to see you win. So if there's some ask out there that you haven't done yet, get off your butt and go do it.
Yeah, and they feel
Because
invested
people
in your
want to see you win.
success. Yeah, and they feel a part of it too, right? Like I've walked alongside so many authors, course creators, coaches, entrepreneurs, right? And it's the same conversation I have with them, right? Like it's making the ask and it's so important and it's so much harder to do it when it's about yourself. And you know this, Becca, you sell, I sell, like I've spent 20
Yes.
years in sales. Like this is not something that's a new concept, but when it's about yourself, sometimes it's so much harder. And I think that's
It
where we have to just continue to be like, have the friend or the coach or the colleague who's willing to like push you over the other side. And once you get that momentum, like I noticed that once I did it 2 or 3 times, I was like, I'm good, right? It was just those first few. And if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, don't take it personally. Like move on, keep going.
yeah, there's someone else to ask. All right. So now I want to focus on the book a little bit. We're talking about lessons right now. What is a lesson? Can we give a teaser to the audience? Is there one lesson that we could pull forward that we can share with the audience today?
Oh my gosh, I have so many lessons in there. And I think I will say, I want to kind of just go back to the aha moment from the book if I can. And I think there's a
Yes, that would be
lesson
great.
baked into
Yeah.
that. In my intro, or when I was introducing myself, I shared I had the beautiful opportunity of building a startup from scratch and helping 40,000 people in our addiction treatment centers over the course of my time there. But it wasn't until I started writing the book where I realized that there was so many parts of that story that the chapters were done being written.
Mm.
And as I worked with my coach on the framework for the book and all of the chapters, as I was writing it, chapter 10 was just very unsettling to me. And I realized during the process that it was because it wasn't the chapter that I wanted to write. I didn't want to
Mm.
close the story by saying, I'm still here, I'm still doing this, because I'm still is like also not the best place. Sometimes I'm still
Mhm.
also means I'm stuck. And I realized that I had become so comfortable in that seat and I could lather, rinse, repeat. I could keep doing it, keep saving lives there, keep building the team there, keep doing the things, but I had done those things for 9.5 years. And I had gained
Yes.
so many wonderful experiences and exposure to incredible people and lessons learned and all of it. And I realized that where I am best positioned is in early stage startups that I can build the infrastructure and I can create incredible leaders that are going to take the organization to new heights. And it was one of those eye-opening moments, and I know you're very, like, spiritually
Mhm.
connected too, and there were so many signs, Becca, that were affirming that decision for me, and literally during the course of writing the book, I left that career, and I started over, and I realized that, like, I can do this, and it was one of the biggest, boldest, scariest moves that I've ever made. I walked away from a lot of people I loved, a lot of upside, right, that doesn't
Mhm.
exist now, and I'm still so grateful for those sacrifices to trust myself and to prove to myself truly that I can do this over and over and over again in bigger companies, in other settings, and other situations. And so it's really trusting the evolution. And I talk about that a lot in the book. I'm grateful that I got to write a different chapter 10 and I walk everybody through that process of self discovery of where are you now versus where do you want to be. And I loved that. So that's involved. And there's a framework in there around meant for more. And that's really where we dive into
Oh,
that. And the framework is mindset, opportunities, create your roadmap, and execute. And so I walk everybody through that in there. And I'm really excited to see. Sometimes the awakening is I'm in the best place, right? And it's very validating and affirming that you are doing the work that you need to be doing at this moment in your life. But sometimes it is unlocking that wisdom of just, no, this isn't it. Or I need to find fulfillment other places, right? Maybe relationships, maybe side hustles, maybe passion projects, maybe philanthropy. But it gives you the chance to really explore, am I doing what I need to be doing at this moment in time?
I am so happy the conversation went this way because you just like hit on a vein that is really near and dear to my own heart. I work with so many corporate executives too, from senior management all the way up to C suite. And I find so many find meaning in their work, but yet are missing the fulfillment. And I think that you really, in just what you shared, gave people permission to do that self discovery and that perhaps your fulfillment might come from changing a role. Or, like you said, it might come from adding something back into your life, deepening your relationships. Maybe you need to mentor other people. But when you get to a certain place in your career, especially if you find meaning in what you do, I think it's easy to get stuck. And I found that for myself too. I was working for a mission based company and I wasn't happy, but I was like, but I love the company. And I got paid well and all of this stuff, but it wasn't in alignment to me. So I wasn't fulfilled. And I actually was getting sick because I wasn't trusting that inner alignment within me that my time had just ended. And it's a really important conversation. So I am so glad you shared that. And guys, you got to get the book. If you're in a place of feeling like you need more fulfillment, go to chapter 10, buy the book, get chapter 10.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like it was so full circle for me because some of those feelings had started coming up towards the end of the pandemic. And I
Yes.
talk about this also in another chapter of the book of like experiencing burnout. I know we share that, in our
Yes.
stories too,
Hmm.
Becca. But I had experienced burnout. That's what set me down the path of becoming a certified positive psychology coach, leaning into strengths based coaching, really becoming an expert when it comes to helping people become more fulfilled. And yet I was still not there. I thought that me raising my hand at that moment in my career, I was so grateful to ARS because they redefined my position. I got to like do other things other than running our sales team and who I loved, but I just needed a break from that. And I
Yes.
thought that shift was enough to satisfy that quench of like, I need to be doing something different. When in all reality, it was, I need to be doing something very different. And it was a really incredible experience. And that's what I spend so much of my time doing with my clients, with people on my team now is that discovery of like, and it's not just about, am I fulfilled now? It's also like, am I in alignment? And a lot of time your fulfillment comes from the fact that you're not aligned, the fact that you don't know yourself enough at this stage. Like,
Yes.
I think we get so stuck on a definition of ourself from a different season of life or what we thought we should be doing. When in all reality, like the whole point of being alive is to evolve into the complete person you were intended to be. And that means that you have to create that space for yourself to change, to grow, to evolve, but also understanding like who you are at your core. And that's why I lean so much on like Gallup strengths and really
Yes.
understanding what neurological strengths do you have and how can we find other opportunities to light those strengths on fire so that they can be firing at all times. You can have the fulfillment in the work and the passion projects and the relationships and everything that you're doing to live on purpose, right? And to do the things that you're meant to be doing and not staying stuck in a story that the chapter's been written, the book needs to be closed, and you need to evolve on from.
Yeah, I mean, if we were playing soccer right now, I'd be like, "Goal!" That's what I felt inside. I was like, "Yes" to every single thing you just said. I just think it's so important, and that self-discovery process, and I love that you said fulfillment really is based upon alignment. Because even when I shared, like, that little piece of, yeah, there was parts of this outer picture that were things that were important to me, but that inner alignment just wasn't happening, and there was no way I was going to feel satisfaction and fulfillment if I didn't understand what that was trying to tell me and then get in alignment with it. And
Yeah.
then similar to you, like I had to change roles and that was scary. And I was giving up being on like an executive board and like things that were title like happy, but I wasn't able to touch the people in my life. Like my marriage was on the rocks at that time. I was disconnected from my kids. I was disconnected from myself. It was a mess. But the point is like for the listeners, if you're listening to kind of the formula that Allison's sharing, it's very similar to the formula I experienced too. And once I got into alignment, then I found roles like Allison did that really supported me. It gave room for me to coach and write a book and like all these things. And people are like, oh my God, how do you do it? I'm like, honestly, I'm in alignment. So it energizes me. That's the other thing. People look at me from the outside. I'm sure they do, you too. And they're like, you must be exhausted. And I'm not going to lie, there's days that I'm tired. But when you are in alignment and you get to touch, like Allison was saying, passion and all these different things, even though I work like a horse, I am energized. And I would love for you to talk about that for a second, if you don't mind, just to get another perspective on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're saying totally resonates. Like I'm driven by the work I get to do. And I think it's just a perfect example of one of the pillars of positive psychology being engagement, right? Being that fulfillment, being so aligned with the work that I'm good at doing, right? And that lights me up. And again, that comes with clarity, right? And I think
Yes.
that kind of tying back to what we talked about in the very beginning, like having that clarity around number one, what am I good at, right? What does the world need that I can offer? What lights me up and gives me joy? And where is the overlap there? And like that is where, as I was contemplating change, I wanted to be really clear of what I wanted, right? What mattered to me most in this moment in
Mm,
time. In fact, I ask every candidate that I interview that question: what matters to you most at this moment in time? And that was
I
so
love that.
helpful for me because I was able, as I was interviewing, as I was contemplating, a big part of me was like, do I just double down on my business? I've created a very successful coaching and consulting business in like 10 hours a week, right? And so, do I want to just double down there and do more there? And so I was able to outline all of that. And it provided me with a roadmap for me to be able to make sure that I wasn't compromising on the things that really mattered as I explored other opportunities for myself. And so I encourage that clarity, knowing what you need, knowing what you want, not just jumping at the first thing. Do your diligence, right? You spend so much time in your jobs making sure you're making the right decisions for companies. You got to make sure you're making the right decision for yourself, right? And that's a
Yes.
big part of your message too, right? Like
Yes.
we are the CEOs of our own lives, right? We have to
Yes.
treat ourselves that way. And that's what you've been preaching. And I co sign on that 100%. And I think that it's just something that, in theory, it sounds great. That's why I love so much of what you share with your audience too, Becca, is just you give them the steps to take, right? Like, here's what
Yes.
you do next. And I'm really excited because not only are these messages that are in the book so important for those of us that are in these stages of our careers, our lives, right? Like this is all very relevant and very applicable, but there's also a real opportunity to make sure that the next generation gives themselves permission
Oof.
earlier on. And so I've been able to spend a lot of time recently with, I love that 18 to 25-year-old demographic too, and pouring into them and saying, like, this is the guidebook I wish I would have had throughout the different stages and phases of my career to turn to number one, know that it's okay to want more. It's okay to challenge yourself. It's absolutely necessary to be clear on your goals. You have to build your brand from the beginning in order to set yourself apart. And when it's time to elevate yourself, you've got to double down and go all in because you are your biggest investment. You are the most important investment. And what you do and give to yourself is going to set you up for anything that you want. And you got to make sure it's what you want.
Ah, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. So 30 minutes is almost coming to a close. So I'm going to go into another question because I want time to share platform and more about the book. So, if someone was to take these principles that we've been talking about and apply it to their life, since it's the empowered half hour, how would it empower their lives?
Oh, it could be absolutely transformative. The whole book is based on the pillars of positive psychology. And so I think for so many of us, we spend a lot of time focusing on what's not right, right? I'm not good enough. I
Sure.
don't know how to do this. They're better than me. All of those things, right? Or I need to fix all of these things about me. And you don't. You need to find the things that light you up, that make you truly happy, and then invest your time and energy in self in order to be able to reach those levels of fulfillment that we've talked about. And so I do a lot of work in the book with people around goal setting, making sure there's alignment there. I have definitely a framework in there. I think the SMART goals are great, but there are still some gaps in SMART goals. And so I
Sure.
use my signature framework there to ensure that people achieve the goals that they're setting for themselves. I talk about building the brand, your brand, how you do it, what you need to focus on. The through line through all of it is building the confidence in yourself. So it's giving you the tools that you need to be empowered to act on the desires that you have within your heart as you explore and uncover what those truly are. And then how do you make sure that you're doing what you need to do so that a year from now, your future self looks back and says, thank you.
That is so beautiful. I have the goosebumps like head to toe. All right. So, a couple things. Guys, you know that I am all about Allison. You've heard me talk about her on the podcast before. Let's help support her book. Today is opening day. Go out to Amazon, Target, Barnes and Noble. She's on all the things. She believes she could. Buy it. It's going to change your life. And I have one other thing. And then, Allison, I want you to share all your platform stuff. So I talked with Allison before the show. I'm going to give away 5 books today. 5. 5 to you listeners because I believe in the message and in Allison's ability to transform. So all you got to do is tag me, tag Allison. I'll get the notifications in my DMs and you'll get in the raffle for a free copy. So
Thank you,
make sure
Becca.
you're paying attention to handles. Yeah, pay attention to handles. Everything will be in show notes too. All right, Allison, take it away.
Yeah,
Share
I
with the
know.
audience how they can find you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I'm on Instagram at Allison Walsh. Website is Allison Walsh Consulting. The book, right? SheBelieveBook.com. And one of the things that I didn't share today that I'll share just now because I'm super excited about it, but we launched the She Believes She Could Foundation. And so all proceeds from the book are going back into this foundation to ensure that regardless of socioeconomic status or ability to be poured into or be in positions to be influenced by incredible coaches, trainers, mentors, we want to eliminate those barriers. And so we are launching the foundation. I'm so excited to be able to do this. And so I really hope that even if that piques your interest, I'd love to connect and share more. But yeah, I'm on Instagram every single day, on LinkedIn quite frequently. You can join the She Believes She Could community on Facebook. It's all linkable from the website too. So I hope that I get to meet and connect with many of your listeners, Becca, because you've built
Me
such a
too.
beautiful community by showing up as you and with the intention of pouring into others. And I think when there's that authenticity and that genuine connection and willingness and desire to help people, it's so beautiful. And I'm just grateful that you've created this space to be able to do that for everybody tuning in.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you for helping me do it. That's
Love
awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you.